We use the old Walking Dead stages. They're
Oh,
about
nice.
an hour south of Atlanta in a place called Sonoya. And so it was great because they had stages, decent stages, and they had this rural back lot that was
Right.
gold for us. They had two lakes, woods. There was like that old oceanside, those cabins were still standing. There was a lot of stuff kind of around. And then the biggest part for us was where we were going to land the compound because that needed to be constructed, but it needed to be on a real road. And we
Mhm.
didn't really have the resources to create a road, and all that would entail. So this is actually a crew parking lot that they
Oh,
used to
wow.
use. And it's before you enter the stages. So you could see the stages a little bit because we started filming in early March. We had to do a little masking with greens and things, but once it was full spring, the trees are so dense you don't see the stages, but the stages are kind of behind the shop,
Oh, I can't.
that way.
Oh,
So if you're on the porch of the house looking towards the shop,
oh, you
you're
could see.
looking at the studio. But it was great that it was the perfect place for it. It had enough space for us to have enough separation between the house and the shop, which was important because at one time that was supposed to be a functioning gas station, auto shop. So you needed like the U
Mm-hmm.
driveways. So we had to, build all of that. And we had to do a lot of grading because we were in a bit of a floodplain there. So we were up against some stuff with the weather in the spring.
Well, I'm
Um,
sure I would think in Atlanta, you're always kind of up against the weather too, of like
yeah.
heat
It
or
was 16
rain.
degrees when we landed. It was January. And when we were surveying, so that is Pickle. Um,
Your cat.
likes to make an appearance and all my
Cameo, cat cameo.
but yeah, so it was that, and then yeah, we finished in June and we were back in July for reshoots, and that was pretty brutal, I'm not gonna lie. It was 90s and very, very humid. But it did get hot towards the end of the shoot, but it wasn't too bad the whole time because we started shooting in March.
I saw you got Gia Grasso who was on Walking Dead, so she
Yeah.
was familiar with with your stages and your area.
She was kind of the perfect choice. Because she knew there's a lot of crew that's local down there that live south of Atlanta, like Fayetteville, Peachtree City, and then even down near Sonoya. And so she was great because she knew all the like. There's only a couple prop houses, right?
Right.
But she knew all the antique stores.
Oh
And
yeah.
for our show, that was huge because I really did want to lean into a more vintage aesthetic. And I always kind of lean that way. If I'm being honest, I find stuff with history more interesting than new stuff. But we were very conscious about adding in new pieces that Hub would have bought for functionality. Like, there's some like newer tables in, the office area and in his apartment and like the full, the Murphy bed that we bought, that was like a new
Right.
thing. But then using like an old car back seat as his couch, right? So kind of
Right.
trying to mix those things together. Um, and I think yeah, I think it worked well.
Oh yeah. Well, it gives the lived in look.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted to ask for your build here.
Uh-huh.
Were you um confined? I mean, you said it was a parking lot, but were you confined? Did you want them? Did they have to be this far apart? I mean, probably legally can't have a house right next to the gas,
Yeah.
but like, was this in your construction here? Because you built the whole house, correct?
Yeah.
And you built the whole exterior gas station.
Yep.
Did you shoot? Is the gas station set inside here or is that on the stage?
That's on stage.
That's on stage.
There was talk about it. It's just with the weather out there, it's really dicey to be trying to shoot inside that set without a ton of soundproofing, right? And being able to do all the things. So we built the interior on stage and cut like we do. And then for Kitty's for the house, we didn't really have enough room or space or budget to build a full interior for her. And that's what originally what it was there was like a living room that we were in a lot, and it became this screened in porch.
Hmm.
So it became part of the exterior, um, which was great because then you get like a sense of the space and the place, and you're looking at the bond shop, across the way. And the idea being that this is a family business, so they, built this next to the house, or they built the
Yeah.
house after getting the business, or was they were both there. But as far as this
Big
distance,
build. It's a big, really
it,
nice
it's a
build.
very big build. Yeah. It's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine who made a comment about me not having done that much on the show. And I went, "What are you talking about?" And she's in the business as well. And so she had no
Oh,
idea I built
you
this.
fooled her.
I
See, that's
told
the
her.
best compliment.
Yes. So I went, okay, I'm gonna post the progression photos on Instagram. So and Facebook so people can see like there was nothing. We're laying foundation, we're framing a house, like all the things. And the response was really cool to
Yeah.
that. Is one person on Facebook was like, is that values at? And I'm like, no, we built that in Atlanta, and anyway, it was interesting. So, and then somebody was like, "Oh, well, did you build all of it?" Like,
Yeah.
it's a thing. And my friends from childhood came out to see it, and they couldn't believe, they're like, "Well, the house was here," and I was like, "No," and they're like, "Well, the gas station was here," and I was like, "No," and then like I took them inside, and they were like, "Oh my God," they see the
And
raw
it's great
framing.
aging. You've got a great paint department here, I must say, and
Yeah,
greens, like
yeah.
meticulously putting in those reeds and stuff, and the aging's great.
Thank you. Yeah, we did a lot of samples and testing, and we picked like a good level of age. It's funny because a lot of them were the Walking Dead people. Their level of age is so it's like, how heavy do you want to go? And I was like, not Walking Dead heavy, like we
Hmm.
need it to be like a little less than that. So it was fun to
Walking
find that
coma.
level.
I want to do walking coma, not
Yeah,
walking.
exactly. But it was that as far as the distance, it was a thing that we determined with the DP and the showrunner. We were marking stuff out with flags and stakes, and then kind of standing at one and looking at the other. And at one point I think I had the house a bit closer, and the showrunner was like, I want it further away, so we pushed it back another maybe 30 feet or whatever it was. And I think it was the right call. I think because that way we were able to like do a full on for her on the side. We have this whole stump moment with Hub where he's has his frustrations, so we took a stump actually from the woods. We cut, it was a huge one. I wanted the whole thing, but they couldn't they couldn't get it, but they were able to cut a big chunk of it and plant it there for all of that work. And we sodded and did all these plantings. And so it's nice because it gives you a separate sense of spaces
Yeah.
between kind of, and then out back we seeded, and partway through you start to really see this overgrown grass happen out back, which was really nice, but it wasn't in full, bloom when we first started shooting. But it grew. But you can see the transition in the
Yeah.
in the
No, it's
timeline. That's
great.
good.
So your interior here is the set, and it goes on and on. I mean, you got
Huge.
this, it goes into their back room. You have like his space,
Yep. Yeah, that's a gas
bathroom.
station. Yep.
I mean, it's a big, you got a big space here.
Yeah, the goal was to create almost like a racetrack
Hmm.
where you have many entrances and exits. So when we got into the demon battle sequence that we knew was coming in the third block, we had a lot of options for the stunts and how to have the actors and the demons interact. Because you have this beat where Lucky's going, right, kind of checking something out, and then Hub is being chased by, Hub has to escape, and then he's being chased by a separate demon. So you wanted these two things happening independently, but then also able to converge. You wanted him to be able to exit any number of ways. So we had three exterior exits. Um, and then you have that like, that path through the storage rooms. You've got the lockup, you've got the armory, and you've got basically like his kind of gardening and maintenance one at the end next to his then apartment with
Right.
another door to the outside. So, and through that door then is his mom, and there was a whole storyline about she's always kind of watching him, right? And you see that in the first scene when he pulls in and she's
Right.
calling to him, whose car is that? Like she's
Yeah.
always kind of prying a little bit. And so it was important that he could see the house from his apartment. So the orientation, the way we angled the shop was to make sure that we had that eye line that we really wanted.
Yeah.
Um,
I really liked the contrast too of her, the sweetness and like the southern versus like his manly sparse space. Like,
yeah, yeah, it was intentional. I there was a little bit of a battle for the color of the house, and I always knew it should be yellow. It was just to me, it was the right choice. She's, very optimistic and religious and, kind of believes in the good. Like she doesn't even want to kill Pastor Ron right at first, and
Right.
until she really realizes that it's a lost cause. And so that would to me was sunny. It's like you said, the antithesis of what is in the shop with the grays and like that, kind of gray green and the age that exists. So I really wanted, yes, a contrast, something that would, be different and show her personality. And Gia found so many great things, like that chair. And we have this ceiling fan that had like a stained glass as part of the
Mhm.
light, which I just thought was sweet. And we got this stained glass cross that was in one of the windows. You don't always see, but it's there. So it was really fun to kind of develop that space and see what she would have and to make it a place where the family dynamic is really seen because this is where really the heartfelt scenes are and they all
And they're
they're
all
together
together.
and play
Yeah.
music together, yeah. And music's a big part, so we had a lot of instruments on that porch for all of those scenes, but I
I
was
mean,
very happy with her porch, yeah.
oh yeah. And I'll ask you about the music, but this also, you're doubling this. So this is on stage and exterior. Or no, is it just exterior?
Just exterior,
Just exterior. Oh, nice. Because I
yeah.
was wondering, I was like, man, they got a ton of greens out there.
Right,
Like
and
one,
translate, yeah, no.
I was
we
like,
um we had a couple wild panels, these screen bits, right? A couple were wild, so camera could really get in there because I made it as big as I could without it looking
no, it's good.
far because
Realistic.
the scale, yeah, the scale of the house is not that big. So we kind of came up with this, and then having like that little rotunda at the front, I think really helps just give it a little more space and then we got like the Amityville windows,
I know.
which I'm just such a horror, buff that I just love any little nods to classic horror.
I mean, you have a lot of horror.
I know.
You like it. You're
I
in.
do like it, but I think it's that thing where once you start doing that, like more of that will come, and I mean, before I did Bondsman, I did a comedy movie, right? In
Right,
Syracuse
right.
and Palm
Lighten up
Beach.
a
So
little.
that was good, and I mean, stories, some of the stuff was more thriller, not all of it was like horror.
Yeah, it wasn't
Um,
blood and guts and like, but
that's right.
even this like, because I'm not like a horror freak. Like I'm not
Yeah.
a smile or I don't know. I'm just not into it anymore.
Yeah, I get that.
But this is like kind of light and it's more action and the dark humor really moves the story along. It's not like a real like bloody horror movie or anything. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, they're those when those moments are there, they're massive, right? Like the chainsaw to
Yeah.
the head. And there's these
Yeah.
moments where you get the kind of Tarantino blood moment. But what I really like about the show, the thing that really attracted me in the first place was the mashup of genres. You
Mhm.
have, it's not just horror, it's supernatural horror. You have dark comedy, you have family drama, you have this musical element, you've got this Southern crime element. So it's a hodgepodge of things. So I wouldn't really classify it just straight horror to your point.
Yeah.
Because I like to genre mashups are to me the most interesting.
Yeah. Oh
Because
yeah.
how do I create a space that's great for a demon battle and these really touching family moments? It's kind of got to be able to be versatile enough to do both.
Did Kevin have any input on specific things that he wanted in his space?
He did a lot regarding like the props that he was interacting with and the weapons and all of that. There was a lot of discussion around that. He was a producer, so he scouted when we scouted this for the first time. He was with us as we walked through everything and kind of were talking everything through. And then he was also on all the emails because I was prepping really early. I was really, really lucky again. I was doing hand sketches of the sets at first.
Hmm.
And then I started doing stuff in SketchUp and then got my art director and my set designer on. And so when we landed 10 weeks out, we had the plans for these.
Oh wow.
And it took 10 weeks to build it all. Um, so I don't think we wouldn't have been able to do it to this level without that.
Yeah.
But so Kevin was on all the emails, and then of course we have to present to Amazon and Blumhouse, and I had these little animations of my SketchUps where I did camera views and then you kind of move through it so you can understand the space. And he loved those and was really happy. Everybody was really happy with that. And then I, mood boards, mood boards, mood boards, and finally kind of got it to the final point. And he was like, this is amazing. Like he was just so supportive and positive. And the only note he had was, I want I want it to like I want to feel like the grittiness and like the texture. Like I want to like look at it and think it smells. Like I want to smell the oil. I want,
Right.
he doesn't clean the toilet, like whatever he said. He had some very graphic things he said. And when he saw the finished set, he was like, nailed it.
Good thing you had those good painters. Good thing you had
Oh,
the
for
painters.
sure, for sure. And it's funny because it was more aged than it even looks, right? As always. It
Right.
always lightens up on camera. So there were times where I was like, did we go dark enough? Because the garage doors were a process in and of itself.
Yeah. I
The
mean, the
right amount of
peeling,
age.
the paint peeling and everything like that. And like to me, it's like, oh, look at that concrete stone's even cracked. Like
Yep.
that's I'm like, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a lot. Yeah. And to your point, like the greens, the little bit of weeds, like all that stuff is so important to just making it feel real
Yeah.
and
No,
rooted. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's a lot of work. It's a
I
lot
know.
of work. If the sparseness is hard.
It is. It is. It
Hard.
really is.
I don't care what anyone says. A hoarder is much easier to do.
Right. Right. Then sparse and thoughtful. Yeah.
I like the bug zapper. You got everything. You nailed like you guys nailed like everything. It's so great. And I
There
would
was
kill
a little
for
like chicken coop in the back, right? We didn't have the chickens, but like I just wanted, it's not in this picture, it's like kind of that way, but we built a little wood thing for firewood, like a little wood kind of a container, but you know what I'm saying? Like a little, it's just like a little arch that you could like stack your firewood in. And we did stuff behind the bond shop too, where we had one of those 20 by 20 metal awnings
Mhm.
with like a car underneath and tires and car parts, and like two more cars were scattered deep. And what was really nice is when the weeds, like the stuff we seeded, started to come in, it started to grow around them. And
Mhm.
it was really great for
Natural growth. The I know we don't know what's happening, but are these sets still standing?
yes. So the exterior ones are, the interior ones have been struck and scene docked. Um, and so yes, and it's my understanding that the stages are going to keep these sets
Hmm.
up.
Oh, now that poses so many more questions, doesn't it? Of like, hmm, that's our work. I mean, I know that we all share, like you get walls, you redo them and everything,
Yeah.
but like when you're creating like a backlot, that's like a backlot you
Yeah.
you design for them. That's kind of a bigger thing of like, man, you're gonna use my design.
I know. I had the same thought there. I think there's an agreement in place that if someone uses it, they have to repaint everything. They
Yeah.
can't use it as is, which is something, but the bones are still there, right? And
In some way, it's a huge compliment, and the other, it's sort of like, well, can I
right.
get a can I get a 10%? Can I get like can I get a point? Can I
Yeah,
get
can I get like a some sort of like thanks credit or like, something.
swag? Can I get some swag or something? But yeah.
True. It's true. It's hard. I also don't want it trashed, because I'm
No, no, I
so
know. I know.
conscious of that. And I've early in my career, I was reusing, I would rent
Yeah.
sets of Beechwood, or I would, get walls from IDF or go to recycled sets. I got these tile walls once for this little motel thing I was doing. And that was somebody had, I use it in a different way. So that feels better, but I still benefited from other people's
Yeah.
sets, right?
Do you
And
know Beechwood is closing?
I heard my construction coordinator told me, I'm
It's
so
so
sad
awful.
about it. I
Oh,
know.
it's so awful.
I know.
Um, this is fantastic.
Thank you.
This
Shut the
little
door. My husband just.
transformation you guys did here.
Thank you.
I always love like a painting on the side of a building, like the like it's so small. They never you never see it anymore unless it's like and like an art installation. Like in LA, believe me, there's plenty of stuff on walls, but it's like art installation or something. This is like small town, like little league stuff, or like I love all that. I love that
So
detail.
what's funny about this mural is it was there because the photo on the left is pre our scout. It was from our location manager, but Grantville had painted that, like this famous artist that lives there had painted that mural. And we were like, we quoted out what it would be to paint over it and then have the artist come back out. And it was, quite expensive. And we came up with the idea to paint over Grantville with the clouds and put Landry, like our town in, and embrace it, like you said. Because my
Yeah,
initial idea was to do this ghost sign there, like
right.
an old advertisement that's faded and that shows like what the town once was, right? And I was leaning into like a religious kind of nod in that moment, like, Heaven's Gate or Beacon, manufacturing, something that felt, a little bit of a nod to the themes in the show. And so that was my original idea, and we were maybe going to cover it, and we were, came up with all these ideas, but where we landed, I think, is great because we
Yeah.
did embrace the small townness of it. And I think it adds a lot of character to that shot.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, this is on your website, but this is such a nice comparison of like a before and after. Even if if someone says like, "Oh, what did you guys do?" There was already a building there. It's a
Right.
lot. It's
A
still a
lot.
lot of dressing on a street when
Yeah.
you shoot it. Like it's a
Yeah.
lot.
And the signs were all made. We had to get the marquee letters made, and that was a whole thing, rigging
They're
those
great.
and the big light box, right? I really wanted that, and then the one on the side with the arrow, so that they were all custom. They were all designed and drawn and created.
Oh, it's great. I love it. This inside bar is also huge.
It is huge. I know. I started at like what I thought was reasonable for a town of our size, and things just, kept growing. And the
But you
good,
have to battle, like you said, like you do have to accommodate for all of these other things
that's
and
right.
you know, but they
Yeah.
have a ton of extras in there. It doesn't it
Yeah, it doesn't feel
no. I'm
right.
just saying it's a big build for you guys. Like
It
it's
is. And I love to do big builds, and there's so many little nooks and crannies. Again, in this place, you've got like the stairs to Lucky's, and then, his office was next
yeah.
door. And you have the pool room, and you have her dressing room, and you've got the hallway and the kitchen. And so it was very another labyrinth, right? Another place where it's kind of fun. 8 episodes, we want to make sure that all the directors have something new to do
Yeah.
in our perms. And Lucky's was fun. So we designed it based on, because his office is above, right?
Right.
So what is the actual measurement of the building? So as you can see, it's quite
Oh,
huge.
so that's it. Yeah.
Because
And
that would be, he has two windows. He's in the one window. It doesn't really make sense to cut that space.
right.
So we went for it, and we're like, okay, it's going to be a huge office. But, coming from Boston, like,
Yeah.
thinks he's like a
He,
gangster.
that
And
actor was good. I don't know his name. He was good in this.
yeah, he was in Justified.
Oh, right.
And I love that show. And yeah, Darren, he's wonderful. Um, he was really good. He
I
was
do
really
like the tones that you gave him too.
good.
Like the greens and the wood and the dark wood and um it's really
Thank you. I had to fight for that
for the
because
green.
it's like a dark, it's a very, very dark brown, the
Mm.
wainscoting. But then I offset it with the green, which I really wanted because he's Irish, and like, in Boston, like it just felt right. Um,
But you also made the moldings lighter,
That's
which
right. And that was a way
is
to not
nice.
have it fall
Yeah,
into, because you wanted the molding to be to tie into the downstairs,
right.
right? You don't want that to be um yeah, too much of a contrast. So too much of a contrast, but you want it to tie in so that you're in the same building.
Yeah.
Um but
Oh,
yeah.
I gotta go this way. Sorry. I'm not done. This dressing room was fantastic. I always
Thank
love a dressing room. It's always so much fun. And how poignant at the ending episodes this dressing room is. But
That's right.
I love that chick. who's on, she's on Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah, she is. She's
Oh man,
fantastic.
she is so
Jennifer Nettles.
talented.
She really is.
She is fantastic.
She's a three-time Grammy winner.
She is
Mhm.
for country? I'm
Yep.
assuming. Wow. I
So
love,
her and Kevin wrote a lot of original music for our show. And it's on
wow.
Amazon where you can, download it and listen to it. And there's the song where she's singing in the sound booth with her son.
Yeah.
That's an original song they wrote. Um, and you might not have, oh, there it is, yeah.
Yeah.
And Red Flags, I think it's called. They wrote that. I remember hearing it. They would just get together on the weekend and write stuff. And, Kevin's a really wonderful songwriter too. So their dynamic is wonderful. And, he has the Bacon Brothers and she's a singer in her own right. So it was
Incredible.
just really, yeah, it was really fun. And her wallpaper was a thing.
That's what I was going to ask about.
So I love wallpaper. I always have, and I always try to use it a little bit in the shows. I did quite a bit on this show, which was great to be able to use it in a way that made sense, but then also get that extra little bonus. For me, character-wise, she's this aspiring starlet, right? Like she wants to be in Nashville and have all this fame, and she's a little,
Yeah.
been doing this a while and really hasn't succeeded. But I wanted her space to really show her aspiration and her desire to be this bigger star and have Dolly and Loretta Lynn on the walls, like her country icons, right?
Mm.
And so this wallpaper to me felt special and kind of rich and lush and like something a star would have. But then the contrast being in this little alcove before you walk in the room, you've got alcohol, liquor bottle boxes and boxes of beer and right because it's also part storage because this is the box car and she doesn't have just a dressing room that's just a dressing room.
They
They
didn't
need
even
to
have a door.
right, right. And then the desk in the corner, she does the invoicing there. So we had invoicing and stuff because she also kind of manages the bar. So it was this, mixing these things together of like all the sparkly fun stuff she has and these really cool chandelier sconces that Gia found, but contrasting with the more reality of what the situation is. This is
So,
also storage, yeah.
in talking about the music, there was a point when I was watching it because it's like is it like the Cranberries and like I was
Mhm.
like, is this the 90s?
No,
Is it using the fax machine? But then like they had the self like I was like, no,
right.
it's not. But the sound, like the music and everything started to make me think, are they?
Mhm. I could see that. Well, I think the Cranberries is because he's Irish.
Oh, right.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's Irish, he's from Boston, he's old school, like, oh, I'm listening to an Irish band, right? I think that's what that was about. We did
He was
play,
jamming.
he
He
was
couldn't even
jamming.
hear a gunshot.
I
He was
know, I know.
jamming.
While he's like doing his bills at his desk, like, how do you even
He's
focus?
jamming out to
I know.
Cranberry. Gunshots are downstairs. Yeah.
Too
That
funny.
that I laughed. I was like, how did he not hear the gun?
Yeah. No, or like he kind of heard it, but then he saw a truck. It could have been a backfire, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to play with that. I we played with time period a little bit. We we kind of wanted this anytime, a little bit of this nostalgia was important. The whole fax machine thing and the manual being from the 70s is that like they haven't updated their stuff. They're
Right.
still using
Right.
this like out of date because they don't give a shit, like it's the devil. And so this was a whole thing from the showrunner of like he wanted this old fax. He just thought it was funny.
Yeah,
And
it
and
is.
it's weird, but then you have cell phones and you have all
Yeah.
these other things, you go into these spaces like the pool and it's a normal modern pool and so you offset it in that way. I mean, even the boxcar, it has that vibe, but there's still stuff that's updated,
Yeah.
It's like you've got the mix of things.
Yeah. It's a great set. It's a great bar.
It was a lot of fun. We had to make sure we had enough lights there's a tracking, like a oneer.
Hmm.
Hub first comes in, which is great because you see everything. You kind of move through the whole,
Right.
but they couldn't light,
They couldn't
right?
put, they couldn't
They
put things up
They
there.
could, and they may have done a little soft, like a little bit of soft boxing, like because some of the ceilings were hard and some were softs where you could pull them and downlight, right? But the way they were moving and it being like a nighttime scene, they wanted that moodiness. And so, I we put these little sconces all along. We put the mine shaft lights, which I always wanted. What I hadn't initially planned to do were these little sconces. They're like old insulator caps, right? In teal and clear.
These?
I hadn't planned on those everywhere, but we ended up putting them in
I don't see them.
like right.
Oh, this one? No.
Yeah, you can see them. Okay, you see to the left of the Bud Light on the pillar. You see that little blue?
This. Oh
Yep.
yeah, the insulator lights. I see. Well,
So there's
they're
like
pretty.
yeah, they're really cool. Everybody, every column had one
Every column had one.
on both sides,
I
right?
see.
And then we did the same ones in the dressing room hallway.
Hmm.
And then there's another little hallway behind the booths. We did a couple there. So we just went around and then it was like, okay, what about Christmas lights being kind of a fun thing? Like we trimmed the stage in those orange lights, and then there's like a buffalo head that has we
Right.
wrapped lights, and then above the bar, like there's a string of multicolor with the cowboy boots.
Up
It's
here,
like
yeah.
right above, yeah.
I
There,
like I like this detail of the flags.
oh yeah, that was a fun.
And
I looked at that and went, I don't like the way this looks, and I didn't want to paint it because I was worried it would go too dark. Um, and Gia's like, "What about flags?" And she had a lot, and I'm like, "Oh my God, that's great."
yeah.
And it just was one of those really fun things to problem solve.
We
And it's
also pulled in all these other American flag pieces too to like, yeah.
for sure. And then, what's nice about that is you still get the hit off the chevron wall, like you're not
Yeah.
losing the detail of that.
Yeah.
And she found these great vintage stage lights.
Hmm.
Um,
They're great.
yeah. And it was fun. And there's a detail on the wall where you have like concrete to brick to plaster.
Right.
And it was something gave me the idea because the real building has all these different, it's like brick and then stone, and it kind of transitions. So the idea was like maybe the bar started as just that very first bar area, and then they bought the other parts of the building and expanded. Um, so that's kind of how we plan that. And then it gave me the idea of like, let's show the progression of them knocking down walls by
Hmm.
showing a difference in the texture and material.
What let's see. How much I know I always feel like I ask these questions and I always feel like people, she's a decorator, she's an idiot. But
No.
but I'm asking so people don't know. But the interaction with like special effects and choreography of these fight scenes, did you feel like you had accommodated that in the design, or was there a lot of, oh, now we got to make this, or like,
We were by the
especially when you went into like the supermarket or like things that you couldn't control as much as your own sets? Like, was there a lot of like, oh, we got to redo this for the fight scene, or we got to remake?
It was more we were pretty deep into things by the time those conversations were happening because we were on so much earlier than stunts and special effects.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of it figured out, and we had enough room to accommodate. So it was more like where are our pick points to do this? And we were prepared to pull ceilings. There was something that happened, I think, back in the storage area. They did have to do something different with the roof than what they were planning to accommodate, because there was going to be like a channel, like a track. And then I think it went away, and
Yeah.
things are constantly changing. But my art director, Jason, is really great with this kind of coordination. This is what he's like really lean on him for. And so he kind of spearheaded most of that, especially because his set was the compound and was also the bond shop interior.
Mm.
So he worked together with them and our construction coordinator, and they figured it all out. The hardware store was tricky. It was small, so we were trying to make it look bigger. So we did all these redressing of these end caps, and we had a couple things on wheels so we could change something quickly. And they kind of do this cat and mouse, so you don't really know where you
Right.
are to
Right.
cheat it. When the guy runs down the wall, that was a really tricky problem to solve. We ended up needing to do like a green screen wall where the actor did it on a harness, and we needed set dressing that would be safe to run on, that they could
Right.
double and all that. So, and then we had to make sure that matched in the space itself, and we ended up pulling some end caps because they needed a certain amount of room for safety because he's now running sideways along a wall, and that's a
Right.
pretty big store.
Yeah.
We had to pull all the end caps out of there. So that was a big deal. That was a very
Yeah.
tough job for set deck.
Yeah. That's a big, I don't know how much they had to redress, but a lot of things got messed
Oh,
up.
yeah,
So you
several
got to
aisles.
accommodate for that. And then with the scene of the running and them running through the store and shotgun blasts and all that jazz, like that's a big dress.
It
To,
was. It was huge. And we were in there for several days, and they had to take their dressing out and put our dressing in. And, in several, pretty much most of the aisles we were in, they wanted to change what was in the aisle. And at one point we were like, okay, well, we have this many days to do it and to reset it. So we're like, here's what we can do. And
yeah.
then we came to an agreement on what was most important.
Yeah.
And it worked. It all worked
You're really
out.
gonna see. Like walking down the aisles and it's
That's
like,
right. Are you really looking at the frying pans? It's like, I
yeah,
understand the weapon needs to be there for Marianne to grab, right? So we had to move like all the pickaxes and stuff to where that scene happened.
makes
And that's,
sense.
you know,
Yeah.
but to redress these aisles just because you want different things, it's like we didn't have the ability to do that.
I like to give a number, an outrageous number, but it's
Yep.
pretty close to what it really is, and then really tell them what the manpower is for
Oh,
it.
for sure. But not only
Like,
that, we were doing all because we had double up days and
ugh,
4 double up days, and we were running multiple units. We always had like a stunt unit going. So we didn't have, there's only so much manpower you can even throw at it. And then
yeah,
that's a functional hardware store. So every day they're shut down
right.
is X amount of dollars. So the amount to keep it open, and we were heading into a weekend, and they didn't want to be down on a Saturday. So we had to be out by like 10 a.m. on Saturday or something. It was nuts. So ultimately, the money is what backed us into what we did.
Yeah, which looked great. I mean,
Yeah,
it
it
reads
worked.
and it was a great scene.
Yeah.
I love this sweet little space you created for
Midges.
her doing her
I
little
know.
flower cookies.
I know.
It
It
was
was,
really, really, her backstory was really touching.
yeah. There's a real baker that makes these. That is a friend, I think, of the showrunner's partner. And I think that's where the idea came from for the art, artistic cookies, which is so cool, such a cool thing. And it was so cool to see her doing it and coming up with the process for that. And we did a whole photo shoot for the magazine cover. So we dressed a little bit. So we built like a little corner of this because there's a phone call that happens before this set was fully built. So we built like a corner to get that scene and to do the photo shoot. Then we finished the build. And I love the floor. For me, that was I had saw that in one of my research photos and I hadn't seen it before. And I was like, oh my God, yes, pink and white. Like it's so perfect for her.
Yeah, that's sweet.
She, yeah, she loves all the pastels. And this was a really fun one. I think it was really fun for Gia too, because it was a chance to be out of the more vintage. I mean, we had the vintage phone,
Right.
green phone, which I loved. So we still would do that, right? But I feel like her house was the one place where we were really current and
Yeah.
kind of
And
dealing.
was that a build or is that a location?
That's a build.
That's a build. Right,
So
that's
there, yeah,
awesome.
there's a
This
there.
cheerleader thing was a big build. That's a
Yes. So midges, we found a house, for the exterior stuff, and then more or less copied the floor plan, like where the garage would lay out. And then I grew it a little, just wanting to have more room for everybody. So that was built on stage. Then we shot the exterior beats and did like cut it like we did. And then cheerleader, same thing. We found that house, and it had the dormers. So I was like, this is what I wanted. I wanted to do a sloped wall. I wanted the interesting triangle architecture. And then when I found this wallpaper,
yeah.
I was like, this is because I had a couple options for the wallpaper, but the director loved doing geometry on geometry. And I
Yeah.
did too. And I think it was really impactful. And then we needed like the little landing so Kevin could come up and we could wet the carpet. And then I went for it with the flamingos in the bathroom.
It's so fun. It's so fun. It's like dreamed for a girl to have this.
Oh
Like
my God, I know.
so, but and perfect for that character too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's a little up for
Yeah,
our
but
town.
it's a different character. It's like I'm in. I liked it.
Yeah, it's nice to separate it from what we've seen. There's one I had one thought of like, should everything be in the same world, right? Where everything's like really tonal. And that it would be a different room, right? It would be
Yeah.
different. It would be like a floral wallpaper and everything would be kind of secondhand and stuff like that, which is would also could look great. But this is nice because it's a contrast.
Yeah. And it works. I mean, it too like I know like keeping everything the same tone in shows is really important, but when you break from that and you give the viewer a break from it, sometimes it becomes it does stand out more.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
I like breaking it up. I'm a color. I love color.
I know, me too.
Big color. I love color.
Yeah,
So this is I love the flamingos.
I know.
And then you were talking about the studio.
This was a little nugget build that we had this senior center that kind of served a lot of purposes for us. So this is actually also this was built inside what is the sheriff station
Hmm.
in the later episodes. And it was just trying to, because we had double ups and all the things. So we needed, Kevin wasn't in this. So we needed to be able to shoot a couple things. So we were shooting the outside crime scene at the bait shack is the exterior of this
Oh,
building.
yeah.
Then they bopped in and got one scene in the sheriff's. We did the conference room. And then next to that was this. Then this came down, and then we finished the sheriff's office for the next block. Meanwhile, on the side of the building is where we did the sheriff's exterior. So we got like two things out of the exterior, and three things out of the interior. So that was quite good. It was became like a little mini soundstage for us.
I don't think people, and it happens all the time. Like if I go back of like, oh, in that building in this show, that was like you just went on. Like it was this, and this, and then we turned it into that, and then we turned it into this, and then the exterior was that. Like the logistics and the creativity that the designer has to imagine like, all right, we have this location. We have to make it work for these 10 sets.
Yeah,
Like you really logistically have to work with everyone, construction, ADs, everyone to make this work. Like it's a lot. Like, oh, we
yeah,
can't just you just pop up a set in the middle and then take it down and then dress it as something else. Like those little departments, if it takes paint too long,
yeah,
set decks held up. Like it's a lot to do all that. That's a lot of logistics to do. I don't think
yeah.
people get that either.
No, yeah. And
It's a lot.
it's funny because Into the Dark, I had to do this a lot where we we were in a really small box for that, so we could only move base camp like three times. So that's how I had to think about and they were features, they were 90-minute features. So I'd have to think about, okay, this is so I can go three places and what are those and where am I going to get the most bang for our buck, like visually. That really helped me in a situation like this where I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, we'll do this here, we'll put this here, we'll get this over here, we like that, okay, and then boop, then we can, because we weren't finding like this bait shack, we needed, and then like, well, what if we do this? And they were like, oh my God, and then it saves because we already have
Yeah.
that location because we're already doing the sheriff stuff there, and then company doesn't have to move, and now all of a sudden we've got 2 full days of work. Yeah, so I love those type of problems. I think because they're creative,
Yeah.
like you need a creative solution.
Yeah.
And that's really what the job is, it's creative problem solving.
It's not just, oh, I have a wide open stage and my creativity gets to flow, which is
Right.
great too, which is a lot
Right.
too. But the constriction sometimes leads us to such poignant design and decorating decisions that
Yes.
it's exciting. Like it's a
Yeah.
challenge, and that's I think what we all love about it is
Yeah,
the challenge of
absolutely.
it. Um, Let me ask you something.
Hmm.
If you could design any movie that it's already been made, what do you think you would do?
Crimson Peak.
Crimson Peak, that's a good one.
And
That's a
then a
good
backup
one.
would be like a Mad Max.
Yeah.
I mean, I love post-apocalyptic and I love Gothic architecture and I was asked a similar question and I said, and Crimson Peak is what popped out. Another one would be like Pan's Labyrinth, right? Just something that's
Yeah.
so gorgeous. That was so gorgeous. It was so undervalued because I think critically it didn't do that well. And I don't think it was super popular because it was a little niche.
Hmm.
And I think it's really unfortunate. I think it should have won the Oscar that year. I think it was the most
Design.
beautiful design thing. They had snow falling in the set at one point, which I just thought the mix of in and out in that way. And um, I don't know, that hallway with the Gothic cutout. I mean, it was just, I would, like
Yeah.
be amazing. Or
It's
Silo as a TV show. TV
I love
show,
Silo.
Silo.
I love Silo and I love Andor.
Oh yeah.
Andor, the design on Andor, and I love Silo. I love Silo. I saw this article of like shows that have been canceled, and it had like all these shows on it, but it said Silo, but it was like after the 2027 season. I'm like, this article doesn't make sense.
I
Because I
mean, they
don't
built
know. I need to know what's happening. They got
I know that's the whole point. It's a big mystery. I mean, that set, where does the set end and the set extension
I
begin?
love it. I know. Believe me,
And
I've
they
been
built a
trying to
lot.
talk
They
to them.
they built
I
a lot.
know. I don't know. I love it. How
Yeah.
big is that set? Like, I can't
I
fathom it.
mean,
And
when you
how
figure,
many of those did you build? That's what I need to know.
yeah, how many stages did you fill? Because she goes all those stuff stories down, right? In the first one, and she's with the computer guy, and that's a to different thing. And then where they live, and then where the offices are, and just the
Yeah,
staircase itself is
that's
just
a
it's
great
very,
design.
very smart.
Yeah, I
The
know.
lighting, all the integrated lighting. So I'm a big lover of sci-fi. And then, I would say Crimson Peak is like gothic horror, right? So that, and again, it's that merging of things. Crimson Peak is period
Right.
meets, right?
Period
It's
aspect of it's nice.
yes, yes, it gives you something different to do. Um, I don't know, but
I um I really am into the show now. I really need some answers, so I hope there's a season two. I
yeah,
hope I need some
I hope so
answers.
too. I feel like
It's a
I'll say
good
I feel our
ending.
chances are good because it's doing well. It's doing really well. So
It's a
we're all
good ending. It's
right.
like, oh shit.
Yeah, and there's some good stuff kicking around for what season two could be.
Yeah.
So if should we get the green light, fingers crossed,
Maybe he goes to Philly.
that would be very
Nice
cool. I
Stevenson.
would love that.
Yeah, I know,
So would
right?
my family.
I mean, Jersey's hopping.
Yeah,
Jersey's got all
exactly.
the new sound stages and everything. They got the tax credits. Jersey's hopping.